Today I'm going to teach you how to paint skies with watercolor. You can paint big, fluffy, layered clouds with a sense of distance called atmospheric perspective. Learning to paint skies more effectively will take all of your watercolor paintings to the next level. My name is Katie Harris, and I'm here to help you grow your skills in art and to develop your art journey into something that feeds your heart and fuels your passion. I love to share tips, techniques, tools, and give you access into the artist mindset. So let's get started. To begin, I start by wetting the paper down very thoroughly with clean water. I'm using a flat Hake brush, but you can use any brush that you have as long as you're evenly coating the paper. I like to go in several different directions. Just make sure that I'm saturating the paper evenly. There's not any areas that have puddles. Today I'm using my Princeton Neptune brushes, my favorite set of brushes, and M-Gram paints. My colors are ultramarine blue, a little bit of Payne's gray, and a little bit of burnt sienna, which is a warm neutral brown. I've also used masking fluid on the house shape, and masking fluid creates a barrier so that I can paint right up to it, and it's protecting the white of the paper underneath. So I'm starting with the clouds that are closer to the horizon and further away from us visually. Clouds that are further away will be smaller in shape, and they will also have a lot less contrast in their shadows. And then the background sky behind those distant horizon clouds will not be as intense as the sky that's above us and surrounding the clouds that are closest to us. So for the earliest stages, the clouds along the horizon are a very watery and grayed down mix of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. You will see later how a lot of these distant clouds are covered by the tree line, but I want to show you how I layer them even if there will be darker values over them in future washes. Painting these soft shapes of clouds is a lot like sculpting. I've painted the lightest shadows within the clouds themselves. I use several methods of lifting up color that I've already put down. I will use a clean, dry Viva solid paper towel, or I often use a thirsty brush where I've rinsed out my brush and then squeezed out the excess water on either the sponge or squeezed it with the paper towel. And that allows me to lift up and again soften the edges of the clouds. For skies, it's usually a good idea to have at least a general idea of the composition of the clouds that you want to paint. You can use a reference photo for ideas, but I never actually draw in the clouds because I don't want pencil marks in my skies. You can see as I'm working up onto the top edge of my paper that I'm gradually increasing the saturation of the colors, but I'm also increasing the value. It's darker as the sky comes more overhead. So in this area, I'm still painting what are just going to be the shadows inside the clouds, so I want that to stay light. And it's also really important to realize that in watercolor, our brightest whites are the white of the paper. I don't have any problem using opaque white pigments in other areas of paintings in small amounts, but I really don't like seeing opaque whites in the sky. They're just very flat and give it a dull appearance. I'm continuing to darken the value of my paint mix, and it will still lighten quite a bit from what it looks like on the paper right now because the paper is wet, and so the ratio of water to paint pigments is still high in favor of the water over paint. So now I am painting the truly negative shapes, the sky behind the clouds, and it's really starting to bring the clouds forward. Without adding some of the darker value, you just won't have the feeling of light shining through your clouds at all. In watercolor painting, so much of our paintings are painting the negative shape around the object that we're actually thinking that we're painting. So it's kind of tricky for a while to realize that while I'm painting clouds, I'm actually painting the shapes of the atmosphere that's around the clouds that gives the clouds the form. And as far as composition, one thing that I tend to think about is that I want my clouds to feel like they continue, and so in at least one point, I want the clouds to be touching the edge of the paper, like going off of the picture plane at the top and then also at the sides. For this sky, I'm loosely following the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds helps us to keep anything from being directly in the center of our painting because that can make a kind of stagnant or static feel. So the biggest cloud that is exiting the top of the picture plane, I have that at about the 1/3 mark. And then to avoid tangents, I'm making sure that the clouds continue and go off of either side of the picture. One of the really fascinating things about watercolor is that it's different every time. And I have painted so many skies and clouds similar to this, but it's still different every time. So if you're painting along with me and it doesn't look just like this, believe me, that's normal. And it is also normal to struggle with knowing when to stop. One of the reasons that I'm showing you this sky painting with the context of the house is you will see later when the house gets finished how much the darks on the house help to put the sky into perspective and for it to feel right. It's hard to know before those darks are in if your sky is dark enough, and so it actually is a temptation to go too dark in the sky. It's so important to learn when to stop and to just let your painting dry naturally and not overwork it. It is so easy to overwork a painting at this stage. For me, I live in Idaho in the high desert, and I only have about 5 minutes starting on wet paper. I still only have about 5 minutes before I'm beginning to overwork the paper and paint. So there are two big problems that I run into if I keep working on a sky when I really just need to step away. Number one, I can create backgrounds and blooms, and that is when you're introducing more water onto the paper. The paper is drying, it's at a certain stage of drying, and you're introducing more water to it, and that actually pushes the pigments that are already there that you might feel are already settled. But if you add more water, it pushes those pigments and creates a background or bloom, or it's also called a cauliflower. And I don't like those in my skies. I find those very distracting. So for a natural feeling sky, it's really important to keep all your edges soft. So the second mistake that I find by overworking a sky is that I create hard edges, hard lines, and that tends to draw your eye. Our focal areas, our focal points in our paintings, those are created by hard edges, hard lines, and by higher areas of contrast. So to keep our sky feeling natural and distant, I find that it's very helpful to keep all of the edges soft. Now that I'm finally adding in those darkest darks, you can see that the sky reads as light, bright, and distant. If you found this tutorial helpful, here's another one just like it, and then here's a playlist of my plein air adventures painting outdoors with my family. See you there.